Ladies and gentlemen, filmmakers and moviegoers alike, my phone goes off right at the intro. Welcome to another episode of Critically Casual. I'm your host, Srekcuf5, and joining me as always is our lovely DorkyDev. Say hi, Dev.
Hi!
See? We've got a routine down. I've got him trained like a circus monkey. Every time I say hi, Dev, he does.
That.
I know. I'm trying to make it a positive right now. Dev.
I won't let that be a positive because you hate it.
It's gonna happen eventually, I hope. However,
Okay, so we're diving into DC today.
oh yes.
Black Canary, Batman, Yay!
Sorry, I interrupted your playtime.
You can't really play with pop figures.
I know. That's kind of the worst part about them.
No, I mean they're better. They're better statues than anything.
Yeah.
No, I do have Wicket back there now, so he's hanging out.
Yeah.
Wicket and Nippet.
Yeah, they're cute. They're watching.
I also have. You can't see him, but Sora's over there too somewhere.
Hidden in the background
He's
there.
orange. Yeah, he's hidden just past the Red Knight. I need to put him in a better spot.
Let's see. Could you show him again?
He's
Oh,
actually
I see
probably
him
right behind the
way
corner.
there. Okay, I see.
He's right there, probably. But he's just around the corner. So
Okay.
you could make a little bit of his hair out on stream. So
There we go. So now Dev had fun new toys he wanted to show us.
well, yeah, no, they were new. They were brand new, and I was like, ooh.
Yeah. One of these days, with how much we talk about your job, we should get a sponsorship from them. Look at all this prime stuff that you get only at the place where I work. Where do you work? A place that's all around the U.S. and the world.
Fair enough.
Yeah, there
I've thought about it.
Why not?
So
Yeah. All right, welcome to this week's episode.
This week is DC animated movies.
That's actually exactly what I called this week. Congratulations.
It was really easy to guess that. So
Yeah.
I don't know how I figured that one out.
Yeah, it's DC animated movies with The Death of Superman and Reign of the Superman.
Yeah.
These
These are two of the most recent DC films, animated films that came out.
Mm-hmm. And I actually kind of enjoyed these. However, I was a little panicking this morning. I had planned to watch these this morning as soon as I woke up. And when I woke up at 8 this morning, the power went out at my house because we've been having the occasional random power outages. So, yeah. No stress, no pressure.
I watched them both last night before going to bed.
Yeah. It was great. I love these shows, and we're just gonna, I guess, hop right in. Is there anything you want to say before we talk about movie number 1? Death of the Superman.
No, nothing I can think of.
Oh, well, all right. Then we're hopping right on in here to movie number 1 with Death of the Superman. So, Dev.
Yeah.
I like animated movies a lot.
Yeah, no, they're great.
Yeah, they're fun. They're entertaining, and I enjoyed this. And I have to say, this movie, and the next one as well, is simultaneously more gruesome and more gritty than the live-action DCEU, and so much better at the same time.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
No worries.
Doomsday fucks some shit up. If you want to see actual Doomsday fuck shit up and not have to deal with the fact of the matter of, casualties happening, because, DC live action was like, oh, everyone freaked out because there were casualties. This movie says fuck that. It happens. People die.
Lots of people die.
And you're gonna see people get their ass. It's good, and it makes you genuinely care about Superman, which the other version, there's two versions that other than this of the Doomsday moment, which is the original animated version, which isn't bad, but this just does it better. The other one's a little bit rushed. It's like both these films combined into one. So it doesn't quite have as much time to develop all of this out.
Yeah.
But it still has a lot more impact. And then you have Batman v Superman, which we've already talked about our opinion on that. We've never reviewed it, but you know our opinions on that film.
It's a
It's a
masterpiece.
mess. It's a mess.
It's a
This is the
mess.
problem. It's like I talked about it when it came out. We didn't have a podcast at the time, but with everyone I knew, I was like, the biggest problem right now is they forced the Doomsday arc into that film when it deserves to be its own thing.
Which this is exactly what that is. Its own Doomsday arc.
And what they did is they wanted to make it more like the comic was, which was in the Doomsday event. It starts out with like the whole league and it's wider shots and all that in the panels, but it gets tighter and tighter shots, where it's just blow for blow Superman versus Doomsday because more people are out of the fight and it's a bare knuckle brawl at the end of it.
Yeah.
And they do it so well.
In this movie, I would kind of have to say that like we're already dived into spoilers a bit for this movie.
Well, I mean, it's called Death of Superman. You can't.
I know, but yeah, whatever. You can't not spoil this movie. It's in its
title alone spoils it, but it's also it's an arc that happened years ago at this point. Mm-hmm. So,
but like it was good. The only complaint I really have about this is we didn't really get to see that development in the movie of like the Doomsday versus the Justice League. We got a whole bunch of Superman, which is good. This is Superman's movie, and we know the Justice League's there. And I actually kind of appreciate that. Like while it would have been really cool to see all of the action that could have been there with like Batman doing all of his things with everybody fighting, but like when we cut away from the fights and cut back and we just see more people are down, it's like, makes sense because real time has passed. It makes sense because this isn't our story. Leaves me wanting to see this. Damn it. But it was good.
Well, they do a good job of having this DC universe that they've created since Flashpoint. Because before that, they were kind of sporadic films. Mm-hmm. But then Flashpoint movie happened, and that sort of created the DC animated universe films that we have right now. With Justice League, because before that would have been Justice League War, which would have been like the only one I can name off the top of my head. That was its own. This is like its own. This is part of its own universe that's been going on. It's the Titan films that have come out, the other Justice League films like Throne of Atlantis, Justice League War, where Doomsday comes in, stuff like that. So they have a lot of the same cast throughout these films, and they do a good job of making sure that it feels like it's connected, but this is Superman's story, which is what they wanted to go for anyways, and they nailed it.
Yeah.
Plus, they set up everything that happens in the next film perfectly as well. It's some of them are kind of scenes that aren't 100% necessary, but they do well setting up without feeling like it's extra.
Yeah. Like, I agree with that. One of my biggest things that I really admired with these movies is just, like, the fact that I haven't seen many of these, like, DC Universe movies. I've seen maybe, like, one or two. But the ones that I did see, I caught references to them when they were supposed to be thrown out. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. I haven't seen this movie in years, but I got that because it's all connected still. It's really nice. It's a nice little thing. And it was fun. I enjoyed this movie. It kept it simultaneously. It was really climactic and like it was big, but it was a very tight-knit, very focused story. But that does kind of leave me the one complaint that I have is with animation, you can do literally anything. If you can imagine it, if you can draw it, you can do it. This movie didn't really surprise me in any of the way it like drew anything.
I will say that's one of the problems I feel like a lot of people have with the current run of DC animated films, that they're all very similar in style. Ooh, that was weird. Your mic just popped for me there.
Oh, interesting. Okay, but yeah,
that was weird. It's just Discord. It didn't come through on the stream. But it's just they all feel very like. They all feel like in a pattern, they feel like they follow certain templates, which necessarily isn't a terrible thing, but it doesn't leave as much room for creativity like other films had, like during the DC animated like genre on TV. We had, Batman Beyond film with Return of the Joker. We had the different Batman films like Batman Mask of the Phantasm, and the Mr. Freeze one that came out, and the Batgirls one. And then we also had like ones like DC or Justice League uh action, I think it was. It was like one that was like old-timey style of look to it, like older comic book look to all the characters, like they had their classic looks. And then you had like All-Star Superman with a different style. You had, Batman Red Hood had its own style. All the films felt different until this kind of latest batch of them. They're all very similar with a few sporadic different ones that pop up, like, Killing Joke, and
I enjoyed Killing
there was another one that came out that's a little bit different. I mean, like Bat Ninja, we've covered that. That's a completely different art style and everything.
Yeah, it literally has multiple art styles in the movie.
Yeah. And I mean, they're also coming out with a new one, Justice League, that's got the old school like the animated style from the show. So I think they're trying to get back to having different animation styles in there. But that is my biggest complaint with both these films, is there are certain times where it just feels like everything feels the same.
And it all kind of just looked the same. There was close-ups, there was mid-body shots, there was people flying away, and then there was close-ups of punches, and like that was just basically it. There was nothing, like, you could do fancy things like weird zooms with animations.
Well,
and, like,
I'll say there were some.
It was rare. Like,
well, I know that it was rare, but there were some, like, but my thing is, I think to counter it, the advantage of this is that it is easier to make these films because you have the style already set. You have what you can, put any story into this universe at this point.
Yeah, it's really easy to just like make a story now with the DC universe. I like it. It honestly though, watching these two movies made me oddly really excited for Game of Thrones more than it made me excited for more DC universe. Only because I liked the hour and a half long storyline. It was a nice, it was like a nice, really long story put together, and all the movies connect, which makes me think, I wonder what an hour and 45-minute long episode of Game of Thrones, like 6 of them put together, is going to look like or feel like. So, I don't know.
That's fair.
I got really...
No, I'll say it's not bad at all. It like, if the only complaint, which is tough to say, the animation is the only complaint given it's an animated film, but it's not like a complaint that makes it really bad. It's more of a complaint that just like you kind of want just a little bit more out of it. So it's just one of those things that's just kind of tough to kind of fix at this point, because they've got a template down, and the films do well. So
I just think what they need to do is just be willing to have a little more fun with it, like sometimes.
Oh, I mean, that's why I'm glad they're going back with they're making another one in the DC, the Justice League animated style, from the cartoon series.
Yeah,
when we were kids.
I have a perfect example of one moment I would have changed in this movie. Well, like just one scene I would have changed. I'm gonna quickly flash this over the spoilers because I'm gonna talk about it in detail. Okay, we're spoilers for Death of Superman. All right, so there's a scene.
Superman dies.
Yes.
Sorry.
Good timing. There's a scene in this movie when Superman and Doomsday are fighting, and Superman just starts punching them into the sky, and they get higher and higher and higher. And then Superman decides, I'm going to come up and slam him down. But when he goes for the slam down, Doomsday grabs him and flips him over, and then just starts punching him on the way down. We get to see that all from like multiple cuts, and I think it would have been cool if at some point we just saw like we saw it from like we see Superman punching him up, we're following him up as he punches him up. Sure, we cut to the side view of him being punched up and then grabbed, and then we just follow that as he's being grabbed, and then maybe at some point we cut to what Superman sees as he just sees Doomsday's face in front of him as the world is suddenly no longer below him, and all he sees Doomsday in space, and then fire comes up, and then we start to see, like, it would have been different, but like it's just not something that we see in these movies. We get to see a lot of subjective cinematography. We don't get to see a lot of objective cinematography.
Well, I'll say this: the cuts that they did for that worked though, because it was from different different people's angles.
Yeah, it worked fine. Don't get me wrong. This movie is fine. I'm not saying that it's bad, so you don't have to defend it here. I'm just saying that in an improvement, I would have liked a little more variation in what the way it just looked.
I'll say though, it is harder to do that kind of stuff with like that right there would have like it could have been done, but it would have taken
more time.
Yeah, and at this point, they're essentially in a crunch with these films.
These movies,
like both of these films came out, like this one came out last year, and the next one came out like early this year. Like this came out in January 10th, Death or Rain, and this one came out July 24th.
I shall not sympathize for a company that kind of just does this to themselves. They could spend more time to make a more elaborate product.
I agree, the company can, but the artist can't.
Like, if they just decided, you know what, we don't need the push. Like, if they don't pull a Pokemon and push another new game every year, like, sure, they might not make as much money, but it might look cooler, and you might draw a bigger audience because it's, like, actually rememberable.
But DC Studios needs to turn a profit,
True. And they have to.
Though their DC animated films their live action have all made profit, some of them have barely done that.
Yes.
With like Justice League, it barely made a profit in the U.S., right? I think.
I have no idea, in all honesty.
I remember it was close. It was the lowest profit gain for them, and right now it's a topic that I'll talk about later. But the comic studio itself is kind of able to stay afloat because of the films. So having more animated films to make money off of equals you can make more comics, which means you can make more animated films, which you make a profit from, plus make more live action, making profit from. It's in order to keep the comic studio alive.
No, I get you.
That's what it is.
I don't
Given
know.
that the comic industry is not doing great.
It's not doing great, but I think it's fine.
Have news later I will have...
There is news about uproar about Marvel Comics, I know. That we will talk about.
Way to spoil it.
Yes. We're in spoilers. All right.
All
right, back to just moving on.
You were terrible at picking up my signals of being like, hey, I'm not going to discuss what it is because I want to discuss what it is during the news, and then you just blurt it out.
Well, I also have counterpoints to that, so we'll talk about it then. Ha ha ha. Yeah. So, all right. So, is there anything...
but did you spoiled what it was.
Yeah, is there anything else we want to talk about with Death of Superman before we move on?
They set up... The one thing I'll say, they set up all the Reign Supermen really well, as well. They have it's easy to tell who the four are. You have Eradicator, Reign, Cyborg, and Superboy. And they all set those up really well. So
yeah, it's easy to tell apart which characters which. It's
the Eradicator one's just very tongue in cheek. You're gonna miss it if you don't pay attention and think about it.
Yeah, that one is very, very subtle. You'll only catch it right at the very
I caught it.
Yeah.
In the next film, when it's caught by one of the characters.
Oh, you're like, oh, it makes sense.
When they catch it, I'm like, oh yeah.
Okay. All right. So, Death of Superman. How many?
I'll give it a solid 7.5.
Okay, that's actually not far from what I was gonna give it. I was gonna give it a 6.5.
So a solid 7.
Yeah, like this is totally a fine movie. It's great to watch. It's just kind of the same. It's good.
I wouldn't say it's the same. It's far better than any other.
It has
Doomsday arc we've gotten.
Yeah, it's not gonna visually stun you except for like the fighting scenes where it's like cool to watch. It's fine. The storytelling with Superman, it's great. I love that part. Like we actually get to see him as a human rather than him as a superhero, and it's good.
Which is what Superman's story is really about, is being human. And they do it far better than the DC universe ever did.
Because he had a mother.
That's
and I didn't. Because I'm Batman.
Martha.
Why are you saying her name? There can't be two Marthas. Okay. Moving on to movie 2, Reign of the Superman. So this movie, I both enjoyed it more and enjoyed it less. Like, this movie had more variation in shots. Like, it had more of the interactivity and stuff that I wanted to see, that we didn't get to see in Death of the Superman. Or Death of Superman. But, it also doesn't have as good of a story to me. Like, it's loosely put together, but it's put together. It still makes sense, but not all of the all the strings connect, but they're like held together by a thread rather than the whole thing. And it's like, I feel it's too much backstory to try and fill into one movie.
Give or take, you have to watch Death of Superman to watch this one.
Mm-hmm.
Without a doubt. So I'm not sure. It's tough to say. Sorry, I got an important text that I just need.
Yeah, no worries. I'm also kind of looking at the this poster here, and it's making me think, I should look at posters more clearly. Like spoilers later in the movie, we'll talk about things that really were like make sense. That's not a twist. That's not surprising to me, but I feel like this poster could kind of give it away.
Which the center character?
Maybe.
Yeah, I could see that a little bit. But if you pay attention, it's kind of it's very set up who it could be. Because it like so we get introduced to Superboy, Steel, Eradicator, and Cyborg Superman. The reign of Superman that come from this.
Mm-hmm.
Steel is this guy John Henry Irons, who
spoilers.
Shut up. He was in one scene in the Death of Superman. He was one of the scientists who worked at Star Labs. But he also talks about how Superman saved him at a construction site during a LexCorp thing that happened. He left LexCorp to join Star Labs. He's a good engineer, and his get up is fucking rad. Like, his whole thing, like the rocket, he is Reinhardt.
He's pretty cool. Yes.
Like, if you ever imagine Reinhardt as a hero, it's this guy, just not as giant.
I mean, if we're talking about propelled hammers, let's talk about Alita Battle Angel for a second, actually, and Dr. Ito's rocket propelled spike hammer.
Yeah, Ito couldn't handle that. Steel could have.
Yeah, true.
But he's got a suit of steel, is what it is. He's literally the Man of Steel, and that's what he embodied. And he's kind of is at this time the closest to embodying what Superman is.
Simultaneously, yes and no, because there's the facade of Cyber Spider-Man, or Superman Spider-Man. God damn it. It's like there's the look of Super Spider-Man when there's Cyber Superman, fuck, yeah,
Cyborg Superman,
that one.
Yeah, okay, but I'm more talking about ideology.
He meant like when we first see him and we're introduced to him. Really, he has the ideology of Superman. He's like, the word of law is the law, no matter if we agree with it or not. It's the strongest whatever, and we have to do as it
True,
says.
but I feel like Steel embodies Superman's ideals better. By the way, hi Chasing. In the sense that like he embodies what the idea of Superman is, if that makes sense. He embodies that the best.
Just with none of the
each
powers.
of them do embody it in one way or another. Because Cyborg embodies the symbol, and then Eradicator pretty much embodies the powers.
Yeah. The power of the determination, maybe.
Yeah, and then Superboy, in his own way, embodies the development that Superman goes through. Mm-hmm. He's almost the most human out of them.
Oh, very much so.
So, not that Steel isn't the most human, but he is very like Superboy is the
Superboy
most out
has
of
the
them.
best story out of all of them.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
And that's why
Superboy's awesome.
yeah, like he's the most connectable because like the stuff that he goes through in this movie is pretty dark. Well, not necessarily
Oh,
dark.
yeah.
It's like pretty deep is a better way to put it. And it's like
He's played by the way, he's played by Cameron McConaughey. He's from Gotham. He plays Jerome and Jeremiah, the Joker of Gotham.
Yeah. Let me see here.
And he does a great job. We also have Kess Williams playing Steel and Henry Irons. He plays Black Lightning in the Black Lightning show. Charles Halford, he was playing Bibbo from the first Death of Superman. He plays the Eradicator as well. And then, without revealing who it is, we have Jeremy O'Connell technically plays Cyborg Superman. So I won't reveal who. We won't reveal who this person is yet. Who Cyborg Superman really is, because he's not Superman, obviously. But like all of them have very good story arcs, in my opinion. Besides Steel, but Steel doesn't exactly need the story arc because he already knows his role at this time.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's like, there's no Superman. We need someone who has the ideals of Superman to do this. Mm-hmm. He pretty much just jumps into the role, and you don't need him to like his stuff explained, and it works, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like it's just pretty much like Lois is like, "You're Steel. Did you really think I didn't know that?" And he's like, "Well, yeah. I mean, I have a suit of armor and I have a hammer. I'm Steel." And it works. Like you don't need all the explanation. You know he's an engineer from Death of Superman, and it's just there. Well, that's not really a spoiler.
Oh, I knew you'd see it in the other side. Sorry. It's yes a spoiler and no it's spoiler at the same time because
it's literally like pretty much explained in the beginning. You pick up on who it is. Like you pick up on it like that as soon as it happens. Everything else is a little bit more spoilery. I mean, that doesn't happen in the first 10 minutes. Like Superboy is really a clone. That happens in the first 10 minutes. You reveal that. The real mystery is Eradicator and Cyborg Superman. And then Eradicator kind of disappears, and it's mostly about Cyborg Superman. Who is Cyborg Superman? Mm-hmm. And that's your story arc. Mm-hmm. And it works.
The best part about this too is you could kind of tell who the important ones were, the ones that you had to keep track of, especially when like they all meet in person for the first time. Like,
yeah.
Like the two that did the most damage and the ones that are like, wow, what's going on here? You're like, oh, and they have the most connection. They're the ones that like ultimately, you should keep an eye on. But then we also have the fun ones like Superboy and Man of Steel. So
Steel.
I just like calling him the Man of Steel.
Also, hi, C-Rod, sir. So it's all pretty good. So, and through the story, we, because the last one ended with Superman's body disappearing, so we're kind of like, what happened? Mm-hmm. But if you know the Death of Superman arc, you know what's going on.
If you've seen any of the new DC live-action movies, you know what's going on a little bit.
No, you don't, because they don't follow that arc.
I mean, they don't follow the arc, but you still know what's happening.
I mean, kind of. I don't, like... We'll get into it during spoilers. My problems with that. But through and all, like, the story goes through, we figure out what the big plot is, what Cyborg Superman is, Eradicator is, what everyone's doing, what happened to Superman's body, all of that. Lex is involved, stuff like that. It's a Superman story, and it does a really good job. Mm-hmm. Justice League shows up from time to time, and I feel like they do that really well too.
Yes and no. I don't think the Justice League would have disappeared the way they did, but
I felt like it was necessary.
Yes, it was 100% necessary. The story as it was told, once again, was fine, and the things that happened kind of needed to happen.
It's a very comic-y thing that happens.
Yeah. A lot of this movie is just like, they do cool things, but I want them to take it farther. Like, they have gruesome moments, but I want them to take it farther. It's like this movie is good in so many ways, but I just need more.
Well, you say that with everything.
I know, I do, but this one really like gets me on how much it's just like you could do so much more with these, and they just don't.
But they need to be with under an hour and a half, Steven.
I know, but you could still.
There's not a lot of time. Unless you completely cut out characters, which made, in my opinion, the original Death of Superman worse, was that they cut it down to one film. They combined both these to one film. They cut it down to one other Superman during the second half, which made it worse.
Mm-hmm. And this film, it does it fine. It's just like I wish there was more development with the like all the Superman that we get. But that's fine. Like we get to see how they grow and stuff. Like I said, Superboy, he's the best part. He's cool. I mean, he has the deepest story. I think that's fine. Like it's just the cinematography and the stylings of how everything's drawn. It's better than in the Death of Superman, but they can still push it more, you know. And it's just this is clearly just a made-for-TV animated movie kind of thing. And it's fine. It's great the way it is. But if they treated it more like this movie is going to be put into theaters and still just made it for TV, I think it would have been cooler.
I'm going to counter you again with what I said earlier, though.
Yes.
Time constraints.
Yes.
And that's not the artist's fault.
No.
You can't go full crazy awesomeness if you've only got set amount of time to work on it. Mm-hmm. And you start to work on that scene and be like, hey, this is what I kind of had, like, because there's a huge process to do in animated films. You know, you got to do, first you do the drawing boards before you even do, you design what the scenes, the ideas for all the scenes are going to be, and kind of what you want the momentum of the scene to be, before you even start animating it. You have the base concepts for all the scenes, and that takes time. Mm-hmm. Then you have to make sure you have the story down, you know, plot and everything, which is relatively easy when taking over a comic book to animated film, because you already kind of have the idea what the story's going to be. Mm-hmm. But you need to modify it so it's different, due to the fact that, like, this is a different universe, so different things are kind of happening. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of little things that make it damn near impossible, given that they're within a fucking tight schedule on these films. It's not the artist's fault.
I almost feel like this is the same thing when I say, man, this actor could have done something better. And you said, it's not the actor's fault.
Well, yeah. It's very similar.
I don't blame the artists. They know their limitations on what they need. They know the limitations on what they can do and how they can tell their story in the amount of time that they need, obviously. My biggest thing is I just think something needs to change with these DC movies, because they're fine to, like, draw my attention for an hour and a half, sure. But anything after that, and I'm already, like, distracted because it's not as super compelling.
Well, lucky they never go past hour and a half.
Yeah. So, like, I think what DC should do at this point is just delay the release of the movies of it. Make it a year and a half rather than every year, and put more into these. Just funnel more into, like, the stylings of it. Maybe a little more depth in the story. You can make it a little bit longer too, to like put in the variation of time. Like, there's things you can do to change it. I want more. That's it.
Fair. Take it up with Warner Brothers.
I will. I shall. When I become famous.
Because, in all honesty, that's what they need to turn a profit on the properties they have. So, that's what they do. They push them out so that they can turn a profit on these properties that they have.
Yeah. It's all about money nowadays. And
and good storytelling. If you have a good story that makes money, then it's even better.
Yeah.
And these are good stories that make money. I'll say that. They're better than the DC live action. For the most part. Aquaman and Wonder Woman, you stand out amongst the crowd, but...
I mean, I can at least say there are scenes in Aquaman and Wonder Woman and, like, Spider-Man, it's like Superman versus Spider-Man, where they at least kind of do something a little bit different.
Superman versus Spider-Man?
Exactly. Batman v Superman. Like, they have really cool moments in them that, like, really stick out to me. And in this movie, the only moments that really stick out to me is when one character starts losing his mind. Like, or when the Red Men start doing their creepy thing. And you know what I'm talking about. Like,
Yeah.
like those are the two moments, because they're kind of different than what we've seen in the rest of either of the films. I'm like, oh damn, this is really cool. It's just, it'd be cool to have more of those.
You would need to introduce more of those kind of characters, which is harder to do in a limited runtime.
I don't agree with that. You can develop the characters you have using those same things. Like, they just
There was only one other character who could potentially have that kind of cool stuff in it.
I don't think that at all. You could do a whole bunch of cool things. It's just where you put the camera and the things that are interacting with the camera. Like,
well, I'll also counterpoint you with some of the scenes with the cool Red Men looked off given what we see in one shot, and then the next shot they're either closer together or further apart.
Yeah, sure, that's not consistent either, but like, it's still different. It's just, I got bored of watching these a little bit. Like, one right after the other. I shouldn't have done that. I should have spaced it out more. I'm sure I would have liked it more. Like,
I liked it watching them back to back.
Yeah, I'm sure I would have liked it a lot more if there was just like a little more variation. That's all I'm just trying to say at this point. Otherwise, I really enjoyed these.
Fair.
They were great stories to tell. The action was fine. Characters were good. The storytelling was fine. I just more depth for the characters, more cinematography. My only complaints. Do we want to move into spoilers, or?
Well, we gotta rate it.
I know. Is there anything else we want to debate before we spoil? That's what I'm trying to get to.
I have no idea because that cut was just like 3 times in a row.
No, that was only 2. I only switched to one scene and back.
Yeah, but it cut 3 times on there.
You're just seeing things.
No, I'm not.
Just like those. Never mind. I'm not going to do that because I know I'm wrong.
But no, I don't know. I felt it was really good. It was a good, like, these two films work really well together, and they tell a good cohesive story.
And you would give it a what's out of what? Possibly Dev.
I mean, I rated the last one first. Usually we flip it.
Fine, this is good.
I wasn't expecting you to do that.
This one's fine. It's good. I enjoyed it. It's just, it still leaves me wanting more, but at the same time, it gives me more with something. Like, 7. It's just, it's good. It's fine. I like it.
I was gonna give it a 7 as well.
Yeah.
I like Death better because of story, but 7 is still very good for it. So both these just came to a 7. I don't know why you rate.
As much as I hate like storytelling, like the thing in this movie, I try to be a little nicer on that, and it has better cinematography in this movie. Just straight up, I wanted more. I wanted better. It's fine. It gave me half a point better.
Me. You bewilder me sometimes.
Don't even try it. You've known me for almost a decade now, and you're still trying to understand me. There's a problem here, Dev.
That's what friends do, shithead.
There is no understanding me. I am an enigma. Ever changing. I don't even know what I'm Wait, what's that? What were we talking about, Dev? Oh yeah, spoilers. Alright, let's move on. So like, the big thing about this movie, the big scenes that I really like, the ones that really got me, are when Cyborg Superman, by the way, everyone, spoilers, Cyborg Superman is the bad guy in this movie. If you couldn't tell, just by how he's standing over us with the menacing hand of power as he's threatening us in the poster. Couldn't tell he's the bad guy. But I really liked when he starts losing his mind. And we see him unscrewing, the mind control thing, and we see all this exaggerated close-ups of his face and the proportions. That's stuff that we didn't get to see in the other movies, and it was really cool. I really like that.
My problem with those scenes, though, is that when you do the exaggerated proportions, I hate it in both the films, because Cyborg has one of those scenes where the eyes go like this.
I don't remember
This
that.
film has that, too, with Cyborg Superman, where, his skin eye is higher than the other eye.
Yeah, that is actually an effect that you can get with close-up macro lenses, usually around 14 to 12 millimeter lenses, because they're so wide and buggy that they just distort the light that way to where your eyes, depending on how you turn and twist your head, can look that weird in proportion.
I don't like those, though, because it doesn't...
I liked it. I thought it was finally something different to look at in the film, and I was like, that's super cool.
I didn't like them because it
was.
I don't like it when my idea of what, the character looks like, because it looks like an inconsistent animation to me.
Okay.
That makes sense. Because then all of a sudden, this eye's higher than the other eye. It looks like it was inconsistent animation and rushed, which gives me flashbacks of Dragon Ball Super.
Mm-hmm. Well, I could kind of agree with that, how it looked like one eye was higher than the other, because I feel they didn't put the detail, enough detail in the lining of his nose, the bridging of his nose, but it was really cool, because I know what that was say if my face was his, the camera was up here, right here pointed at him, so you could see majority of his face, and it was distorting it that way. But because they didn't have the detail of the bridge line here, it looked like it was just that. At least that's my assumption, based on what I know with real life cameras and how they tried to and how I'm assuming they tried to animate it. But
fair. You can see where I come from, though, right?
Yeah.
Because you know me, I'm a stickler for CGI / animation being consistent.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of those things that will always get me every time. As soon as it's off just a little bit, it throws my brain off just a moment, which I don't want. In Death of Superman, the scene that threw me off is also one of the scenes that I went to, but because it just so happens afterwards or later on, Cyborg has a moment where he's in the Justice League base and his eyes just kind of do that, and it bothered me. And it just same thing happens with Cyborg Superman. I'm like, ugh. And also same thing with the red dudes. When they go from having their arms attached, right, and you see them spread out, and then they cut to those scenes where it looks like they're attached literally right here.
Yeah.
And it looks like they're just copy and paste on top of each other.
No, yeah, that I would agree with you. That looked weird. But at the same time,
and it's because we just saw them spread out.
Mm-hmm.
They were not that close together when they started that scene.
But when the scene started, the part with the Redmen, when they started spreading out and turning into this gruesome horror show, that was also the other part that I really enjoyed of this movie.
I like that. Yeah. It was cool animation to see them come apart and all that. But when you have it connect, they connected, it looked like they connected as far out as possible. Mm-hmm. And then the next scene,
they're right next to each other.
Right next to each other.
Yeah.
It doesn't. It breaks the consistency, which breaks your
that
illusion.
Proportioning there was off. I can agree with that. They had,
which is why I didn't like the Redmen. I hated that because of that. Just those, because it only shows up twice. But because of it, my brain's these guys are all just copy and paste it. They're the same. They're all the exact same, even though they're all different in little different ways.
Mm-hmm. They're generic army.
They're generic same. Mm-hmm. It bugged the shit out of me. Because it was just they were so easily copy and pasted on top of each other to make the scene look worse.
Yep.
They're a cool concept, but it was just bleh.
They were just, once again, once you have animation cutouts, like stints, it's really easy to animate things. So you could just get the same character as long as they all look the same. You could put them everywhere, and it's fine. It's kind of the same reason why George Lucas made all the stormtroopers look the same. It's you could just fill them in.
Yeah, no, and there's nothing wrong with filling them in. It's just consistently filling them in. Because if they were more spread out, I wouldn't be sitting here saying this.
So that's...
And maybe I would agree with you on these scenes being better. But because they weren't consistent, it's one of those scenes that makes me dislike the movie.
Okay. So, yeah, I
honestly feel the animation was far more consistent and better in Death than this.
Okay. See, okay. Yeah, I like the more artsy stuff, though, and you just like oh, I know exactly what's... to me, sorry, I don't mean to, oppose this, but to me in this moment, it just seems like you prefer the just, I know what I'm here to watch, and that's exactly what I'm getting the whole time kind of thing.
No. I like it, if you're going to do something more artistic, yes, cool. Make sure it's consistent.
Okay. I mean, to me, from what I saw, the art style was all the same. Sure, there was continuity errors with
That's the problem.
Yeah.
In animation, continuity errors break the consistency, if that makes sense.
I see a difference, in all honesty. The animation was consistent the whole time. Every time it looked exactly the same.
Cyborg Superman had times that were inconsistent, though.
But those looked like... Those slightly inconsistent looks added to the style of cinematography that I liked. Like, the moments where he looked weird, it added an artistic touch that I thought was
there were
cool.
certain angles that he was supposed to look weird, but there are certain times that I'm talking about I don't think you're getting, because I'm not just talking about the scene where it's right next to his face. I'm talking about just consistently throughout the scenes, like all of them, there were some times where the eyes just don't line up.
I did not notice that at all.
I noticed it with Cyborg characters. No offense, Cyborg. It's just really easy to pick up when your red eye doesn't match your regular human.
Yeah, it's easy to see different colors, but I didn't see that.
It's something that I noticed, and that breaks the consistency for me.
Are you sure
that makes sense?
Is it... Are they off because... Are they trying to add, an extra fluff layer because it's flesh compared to the flat metal? Or is it off just because it was poorly drawn once? Or, it could be a style choice in how it's angled. I mean...
Well, the thing is, his layer isn't supposed to be, above the other. Mm-hmm. It's supposed to be, kind of flat. If you look at the top of his head, the hairline doesn't start until where the steel is, right? You know what I mean? The steel is just... If anything, if it was off proportion, it shouldn't be that if you turn the head, the real eye shouldn't feel further out. It should feel deeper in, because it looks like the steel is further out, right? The Apocalypse armor is supposed to be further out.
Chasing. I kind of would agree with that, actually.
Yeah, but that's different due to the fact that it's that is prosthetics and stuff like that. It's supposed to look more realistic with that, if that makes sense.
So even though it's the same prosthetic but a little bit lower, it wouldn't bug you?
With the prosthetics, it's different, okay? I'm just going to say that. Okay. You're allowed to be a hypocrite from time to time. I'm allowed to be a fucking hypocrite from time to time.
I'm understanding that. I just want to bring that up at this point. I announce when I'm a hypocrite. That's okay.
Because that takes way more work. Well, not way more work, but you know what I mean. Prosthetics take... there's a different talent thing that goes with it.
As a person who understands the ins and outs of how films are made, I feel like you are putting more pressure onto different roles than you're saying that animation storyboarding is a lot harder than you make it seem like animation storyboarding is a lot harder than regular filmmaking storyboarding, when the process is exactly the same. But
usually they have a little bit more time in a real a feature-length film going to theater. You have more time usually.
A little bit, yes, because it's faster to render a computer than it is to...
Yes, and Warner Brothers wants to push these out, so their time constraint is literally within a year.
Yeah, if Warner Brothers just took more time...
I agree, and that would improve some of my issues with this film. I'm not arguing that. Yeah. But this isn't me attacking the artists.
Yeah.
I like the art style for these films. I'm not saying, that's also kind of what they're going for, because it's all within the same universe, so you need it to feel familiar.
Can you repeat that again for me? My internet lagged out and you cut out. God damn it.
They're supposed to feel familiar. The reason why they all feel familiar is because they're supposed to feel familiar.
Okay, thank you.
Because they're all part of the same universe.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry that it happened twice.
The art style, you're supposed to be like, okay, it's part of this continuity, right?
Okay, yeah.
Which is why these ones are getting pushed out faster than the other art style ones. So, with that, though, it means that they're coming out faster, and there are certain things that are going to be missed within editing and stuff like that, like the eyes. And to compare to something else, the same thing happens in Dragon Ball Super. If you look at some of the episodes for that, especially during like the Frieza arc and stuff like that, there are some rough moments.
Yeah,
in animation.
There's always like subtle things that people miss in animation, like.
Well, it's also due to the rushed production of Super, because Super was pushed out quickly, like it did not get the time that it like the other animated series usually get, because it doesn't have a manga to go off of. It's just doing its thing, it's pushing it forward. You could say that has some of the same issues that this has for me.
Okay.
And it's not a jab at the artists themselves. It's more at the fact that they're being pushed to do this faster.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to jab at the artists saying that, like, they suck because they're not being more creative with their art style. I'm just saying, like, what they're doing is fine. It's just, I just want a little bit more, Like, it's...
Well, and I'll say to defend the art, not to defend the art style too much, but it's also, the reason why it's what it is just to make you feel connected to the other ones.
Like... it's just, my biggest complaint is I hate how Hollywood works. How about that? If this wasn't a made for TV animation movie where it needs to come out and instantly make money, I'm sure this would be better. Like, if this was made in mind to make a really cool animation because people liked it and they really were passionate about it, we possibly could have gotten another Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Like,
I wouldn't go that far. No offense.
I would, because you can literally do anything with animation. Doesn't matter what it is. If you can think it and you have the time to render it, you can do it. So,
yeah, but
like,
I'll say this: Sony with the Spider-Man stuff is going to take way more time to do that film than DC's going to take time to do these films.
Which doesn't make sense to me. I feel DC is really just... it seems to me they're trying to stay afloat. They have a system that works, and it's keeping them going, but at some point, it's going to stop working, and they're going to need to change something, or else they're going under. Is my thoughts on this. Because,
that's why they try out other art styles to see what people like. Like, they know people like the Justice League animated series, so that's why they're making a movie in that same vein of art. So I think it's more of a, they're gonna try other things out during this time too, because you also had during this era of Justice League films, you had Gotham by Gaslight came out as well, which was a different art style. You've had the Harley Quinn one that came out, the Batman Harley Quinn movie that came out with Nightwing in it. You had Killing Joke. They're all different art styles from what the main continuity is for DC Animated right now. So they're going to test out the other ones, but they're going to stick to this because it has a group of people watching it.
Yeah.
You want to see this universe because it's also better than the live action currently.
Yeah, so. And that's why we chose to watch these, because we knew they were going to be better than the live actions. So, but
we should go back to the spoilers though. Cyborg Superman's story arc is pretty cool, because he's not a throwaway character from the first film, from Death, but
in the first film, if you leave it to only the first film, to me, he kind of feels like a throwaway character. He's there, he says some lines, then he's gone. That's it.
But he's supposed to show the people's faith in Superman in that film. And what Doomsday represents in that film is the being able to crush that faith.
Yeah, the problem is that he was blind faith, was what...
Yes, which some people do have in Superman. Like, Superman's going to save me no matter what, because he's here. It's not how it works. But it turns out Hank Henshaw survived the Excalibur accident in space, where his wife and 2 crew members were killed.
Mm-hmm.
His body disappeared, and Darkseid's like, "Yo, Doomsday created you. I'm gonna make you better. You're gonna be like Superman. You're gonna destroy his symbol. You want revenge? We got you." Kind of thing.
You want pyramids? We got them.
Pretty much.
I liked him. When we find out who he is, who he was as a person, like, oh, that's really cool. But at the same time, when we get introduced to him as Cyborg Superman, I was like, he's the villain. I knew just by looking at him and, like, the moments where they clearly show him intentionally, like, just standing around doing nothing. And it's like, cool, he's the villain. Awesome. Sure, they make it really subtle, but it's just enough to where if one character is like, hey, you're going to do anything, you automatically know they're not helping intentionally. They're the bad guy.
Well, yeah, but at the same time, Cyborg Superman isn't supposed to be, like... To the characters in the movie, he's supposed to be a hidden threat, but not really to us. He's not supposed to be hidden to us, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. I don't know how to counter that.
Yeah, it's just a subjective point of view. This movie's being filmed from our point of view, so it's easier for us to see and understand.
Yeah, I mean that's how it is with some films where like we know who the murderer is in a film. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. That's just what the film is like, giving you that information so you know, so that adds suspense to other scenes later on. Yeah. And I'll also say the other reveal of what Icon is was really cool because I didn't pick up on it until Lois picked up on it.
Oh yeah, the
data matrix, and I was like, "Oh, that's the dude from the craft. It's a hologram."
Mm-hmm. So yeah, for those of you who don't know, in Death of Superman, hi Pip, at the very beginning of the movie. There's they see the super ship, and it has a hologram explaining what Kal-El is, and like showing him the lineage of the Kryptonians. And you see a hologram guy, and then it changes, and we're somewhere else, and that's literally all you see of the hologram guy. But just like Mark, the guy where right at the very beginning of the movie we see him, and then he disappears, he makes a dramatic reappearance in Reign of the Superman. Wow.
And in my opinion, it kind of works perfectly. Like, it's just a program, so like the fact that it's like more willing to damage people kind of makes sense. Mm-hmm. Because it doesn't have like the emotions that all the other ones have. So
yeah, it doesn't have the humanity.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. Like, it was a cool little thing to have in there. And using it to, so like Superman straight up murks Cyborg Superman in this film.
Yeah. I kind of, you know what I wish would have been a cooler Merc? Like, in this film, Cyborg Superman... do you want to explain how Superman kills Cyborg Superman, Dev?
He stabs him with the incinerator crystal. So the incinerator goes in his brain and is like, hey, I'm here now.
Decimation. Yeah. And then he, like, dies. You know the one change I would have made to that? Instead of stabbing him right in the center of the head, there's already a hole in the top of his head. Go back in there.
That could have been cool too, but you know, semantics. Yeah. Still gets the same place.
Yeah, it goes to the same place. It's just a minor difference of penetrating the front or using the hole he already created himself. It would have been more gruesome, and I think it would have been cool. It would have shown a minor change in Superman, because doesn't he like a slightly different person now? I don't know, sorry.
No, he's still Superman.
Okay.
He's still Superman. He's still the same Superman. He just came back from the dead.
Okay.
And if anything, he understands his humanity more. That's his big change.
I've actually died. I know what it feels like to die. Oh, you humans, I get you now. Oh.
Well, it makes him want to protect things more, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. He understands it. And, you know, I'd like to see with this Superman is have his Darkseid moment from the Justice League Unlimited. Mm-hmm. Give him that moment to let loose. Because he's earned it after this.
Like, I wish we got to see, like, evil Superman when he gets respawned. Only
there isn't an evil Superman when he comes back.
I know, but I wish that would have been so cool. Like
It's a completely different arc that you're thinking of.
I know, but it would have been so cool.
That would have taken more time. You know that.
Like,
there's no way in this film Superman coming back from the dead could have been evil.
We can hint at it in this film. It doesn't have to be right here, right now. The next film could be evil Superman. But we could show, like, this Superman who says he is weaker. Like, he doesn't have the powers that he used to. Of course, he says that because he's not fully healed. However...
He's not fully charged up with solar radiation.
Yeah. Like, because I would love to see, like, him have, like, a small switch in, like, how he changes things. And it, like, he's like, I'm not as strong. I need to be more cunning or more whatever to do things. And we see him kill, like, Cyborg Superman in a slightly more gruesome way. Be like, oh, okay, cool, he's dead now. And... that'd be the end of this. Like, we just see minor things where it's like, Superman wouldn't do that. And, like, you could see a moment where Lois Lane was like, Superman wouldn't do that. Oh, it's fine. And you're my Clark and I love you. But then in the next film, he's different. Like, he's kind of still the same, but then it just gets worse, and then he becomes evil about 15 minutes in. There you go.
My only counter to that is that evil Superman stories suck.
Probably. But we could make it a Batman story where it's Batman.
Fuck Batman! Fuck you!
Batman's the best and he could be
I don't
anybody.
Care. Fuck you! I hate... Okay, that is one of the problems with this DC universe, is that Batman has to be tied into everything.
Yeah, you're not wrong. And Batman can
Which
do
is
anything.
why I was so happy when the Justice League, including Batman, is literally just teleported away, and then we get one scene where they're like, what the fuck do we do now? And, like, halfway through the film, and then they come back at the end to help take care of the mess, and not deal with the main threat. Batman has jack shit to deal with.
No, yeah, I get you. That also does remind me of the moment, like, when they disappear, how the hell is it gonna be, we all land, we're here, we beat them, guys, oh... and they're gone. Like, I don't think the Super Justice League people would have had that happen to them, but that's just me.
Well, that's just, they landed where they needed to land.
They grouped up, and it just so happens that they grouped up right below the thing that falls. Sure, they didn't...
chasing evil versions of heroes just don't... I hate that. I hate... Unless it's, like, built up in the correct way, and Superman's not one of those that you do that with, okay? It's not.
You don't want to see the anti-hero, the anti-hope?
No, doing it with Superman sucks, dude. The only Superman that it's okay with is Superboy Prime.
Okay.
Who is literally the reason why Jason Todd came back in the comics. Fun fact. Because he punched the universe so hard, it shattered the multiverse, resurrecting Jason Todd.
Doesn't Hulk punch time?
That's different.
I know.
Superboy Prime is the only evil Superman I like. Okay? That's not counting Cyborg Superman, who's not actually a Superman, if that makes sense. Like, if we're talking about actual, like, Clark Kent's, Superboy Prime's the only one that works. Okay?
Okay. Sorry. Chasing's comment made me laugh.
Well, evil robot Batman's different too, but it's not, because it's not Bruce Wayne. Like, turning Bruce Wayne evil only works in one universe so far.
I mean, the best, like, evil Bruce Wayne, it wasn't even Bruce Wayne, it was Thomas Wayne, and he wasn't even evil.
I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about the Batman who laughs.
Oh, I know. Like, the Batman who laughs, I've actually seen that. It was good, but I thought Thomas Wayne could have been more evil. I don't know, whatever. We're not going to get into this argument.
Well, Thomas Wayne is an evil character right now, just so you know.
Oh,
so.
Did not know that. Comic books, man.
Hi, I'm here. I don't know. It's just the idea of setting up an evil version of Superman after he comes back just doesn't work, because this is what happens in the comics. Is he comes back and he tries to be more protective and human again, because he realized what he could lose, not just himself, but everyone around him.
Is there a Batman? quick side tangent. Is there a Batman movie between these two movies by chance?
Not that I know of.
Okay. Because there was one moment in this film I really wish they explored on was when Batman sees Superman die in Death of Superman. Like, you see the anger in him, and then you kind of just watch his hand go limp as he's like, oh wow, he's gone. And then later in the film, we get to see Batman like with Damian, which I thought was cool that they still have Damian around. But we see him super like upset, and he's just not there with his friends, and he's brooding alone. I would have loved to see like what happens there with like Batman getting used to a world without his friend Superman.
Yeah, but that's
a different movie altogether.
yeah, and two, I would also say fuck Batman again.
No, I get you. They're just
That would just be it would make it no longer a Superman story. It would make it a fucking Batman story.
Mm-hmm. This would be a different Batman movie,
though. About the death of Superman?
Yeah. Batman,
why does Batman have to deal with Superman's death?
Because it was.
Why does he have to deal with the cleanup? Huh?
Well, he's not dealing with the clean. He's more dealing with the emotional turmoil that dealt to him, where he finally, as an adult, develops another real friend that he hasn't had in years, other than Alfred, and he loses it again, where like he lost his parents, where he has to go through a whole nother emotional turmoil, where he opens himself up as a person, and then he's like, wait, he's gone. I have nobody. Once again, this is why I should always be alone. And then we have a movie about how him and Damian and the Robin start like figuring things out to be like, you need us. Kind of like the Lego Batman movie. But better.
Yeah, but they've already done that.
I don't know these things. I don't watch these movies.
Like with Son of Batman and Batman v Robin. Mm-hmm. They've done that.
Do it a third time. Everybody loves those kind of movies. Just kidding. I'm kidding. That last one, I'm kidding. You know I hate shitty sequels.
That retell the exact same story?
Yeah, exactly.
But you're asking for it here?
Okay. Is there anything else we want to nitpick or argue about?
Well, I'm going to talk to Chasey real quick. He rides a dragon in Batman Metal. As far as the only Joker dragon I know of.
Comic Batman riding. Huh. I have no idea what that is. I don't read comics.
I just keep up to date. I don't have time to read them right now, unfortunately. I just do my best to keep up to date. But no, it's just, I don't know, like, I don't like turning heroes evil all the time because it just comes off as cliche. Okay? That was my biggest thing. It always comes off as cliche. Like, if not done correctly, it comes off as cliche. Like, biggest example, Spider-Man 3.
No, yeah, Spider-Man 3 was pretty bad.
Another good example is Superman 4, when he has that evil Superman shit that happens to him.
Never saw that.
Superman 4. Yeah, well.
All those years
ago.
It's
all part of Metal. Metal is a weird universe where you have all the evil versions of everyone too. Okay? So that's... And they don't have their own story arcs for all of them, so...
Is there an animated movie where we get the evil Justice League versus the good Justice League?
Yes, called Justice League Syndicate.
Is it the older one that I'm thinking of, or is there a newer one in like the DC Universe canon?
It's the older one.
Okay.
They did recently go over those characters again in comics.
Okay. So be prepared to see one of those movies in like 3 years.
Where they return? Yeah, probably. Because they return not knowing that New 52 happened, and they're like, oh, things are different here now. Mm-hmm. But yeah. Just, in my opinion, turning heroes into villains, unless it's for a different story arc entirely, because like in Batman Metal, it's different because all of those other Batmen that are Bruce Waynes, that are evil, have reasons for being evil, and they're not the main Batman. They're not World 52 Batman.
Okay.
Like, turning World 52 Batman evil is pointless and annoying because you know it's not going to last. It's a heel turn to heel back, to face back.
Yeah,
right?
the best part...
Same with Superman, same with others.
the best part about Batman 52 is like his inner battles that he has against the Joker,
Well,
who's
I'd
like his
say,
counterpart, and like always trying to
well,
make him evil and change his code and stuff like that.
yeah, it's my personal opinion on it. So, and '90s animation style would be all right to see come back, which is why they're doing the DC animated movie. So, or the Justice League animated film that style. So, it's still Batman, but it's not the Batman. Okay, that's the difference. It's a what if Batman that comes into the main continuity. That's the point I'm trying to get. It's not Batman.
What about who is it? Was it uh, Batman when he's mixed with the Marvel universe and he's like Batman Wolverine, or is it Batman Black Panther, or
Dark Claw?
maybe?
Yeah. Okay. Your point.
How do you feel about him? Even though he's not evil, I'm just curious.
I mean, that was just a weird, goofy series of comics that DC and Marvel did together to raise sales.
All right, cool. Thank you. That's all I wanted to know. Sweet. All right, should we talk about the news?
Yeah, let's talk about news. I got one thing I wanted to bring up real quick. I have 2 stories, but 3 stories technically. I didn't realize that today was that day. But it's the 25th anniversary of the loss of John Candy, who is one of my favorite comedians in acting. So,
I had no idea that.
his legacy lives on, and goddamn, I will watch Planes, Trains, and Automobiles every year. So.
My placement was off. Okay. I did not know that was today. I'm sorry to hear that. The one news I had that we didn't already spoil was Oscar news. Just wanted to talk about those from last week. Like how the
Green Book didn't need it. There were better films than Green Book.
Yeah, the Green Book, I agree. It was just the safest choice to make out of the 8.
But like Black Klansman would have been better.
I both agree, but do you think Spike...
Black Panther would have been better.
Yes.
It was a cliche by the books Oscar film.
Yes, that's what that was. It was by far the safest and easiest choice for the Academy to make everybody happy.
It's why, again, I hate the Oscars. We're talking about it, but I still hate it.
No, I get you. Did you hear?
No, Black Panther did get 2, and they deserved both of them. So that was cool.
Yeah, it was like best set design and then best music. I think it was.
Costume design. I think it was. Which deservedly so, because they created a whole world that you felt was lived in and perfect. So
taking moments from our world and mixing it into their world, it was great. I loved it. But another little side tangent that came off of that is Steven Spielberg and a handful of other directors are trying to outlaw Netflix being allowed to like enter into the Oscars again.
I think it's dumb. I mean,
I agree with you. The big complaint is that these Spike was a big loser on that. Yes, he was, but it's fine.
Yeah, but understandably sore loser about it.
Understandably, yes. Like, thank God he got his first ever Oscar win. Like, he got it finally after years of trying and like 5 nominations or whatever. But
yeah.
But like the big thing I had, like that the Steven Spielberg drama, is their big complaint is that they don't feel it's a real movie. They don't think
Netflix, it's not in theaters.
Yeah, they don't think Netflix movies are designed and edited the same way as regular movies are designed and edited. And he just thinks it's just a plain made-for-TV movie, just streamed on the internet for your convenience. So they shouldn't be allowed to go into the main Picture of the Year award categories.
My counter to you, Steven Spielberg, is most of the films that make it to the Oscars aren't even watched in theater by the people who vote for the Oscars. They're literally given the DVD to watch.
Yes. Way ahead of time. And
so, how the fuck does that make a difference?
Plus,
they're not watching in the way that you want them to watch it, so.
And plus, like, it's just that's a stupid argument in general. Like, people are making films because they're making films, and that's just that. Any movie that's made is still a movie, and it deserves the right to be put into these awards. Just because,
it's like people when they hate this, it's the same argument that superhero films had.
It's just because they're not made, like, I get the rule that they have to be shown in theaters. I can appreciate that. That's a fine rule to me. But like a limited release run to like theaters is all you need. I'm fine with that. But saying that because it's not released to theaters and it's made with the intention of being streamed from your home, like a made-for-TV movie, is not a good argument, I don't think.
Well, in my opinion, with that is they're still made with the same heart and dedication
Yeah.
that others are. So,
For the most part. I mean, don't get me wrong. Most of today's thought process is it going to make me money? And then is it, do you care about the project? But, you know, it just, I don't think that, I just think Steven Spielberg is being a bitter old man. Like
yeah,
he is at this point. He worked really hard to get to what he did, and he earned the awards that he earned without getting an express route through Netflix, kind of.
yeah.
So
He's just a little upset about it.
yeah, he's just mad that people have an easier time at getting awards than he did.
My other news is that there were rumors circulating around that Disney was thinking of closing down the Marvel Comics, like comics line of stuff,
When,
which
go ahead.
which sparked a huge outroar on the internet, which will probably raise up sales. So it could have just been employed to raise sales for Marvel Comics. But that doesn't mean that they're still making a profit, because right now the comic industry is not doing as well as it used to. Due to the fact that, I mean,
It's comics and the movies
It's-
are better.
well, no, it's not that. Comics are great, bro.
I
It's harder to get it's easier to get the comics, but it's harder to get the comics. If that makes sense. Comics used to be really easy to just go down to your Hastings or comic book store and get them. Now comic book stores are, maybe one per town, if you can find it.
does this? I know comic book sales are low, but does this include like comicology sales where it's just digital comics? It's not paper.
It'll count digital sales, yes.
Okay. Because I know that was a big argument I heard recently about, I think it was Division 2. Like, in Europe, the Division 2 sold the least amount of physical copies it's ever sold. Ever. And it's like, oh no, that's such a bad thing. But then when you look up its digital sales, it's sailing fine.
Digital's just harder to track.
Yeah. Like,
And if Disney's considering closing down Marvel Studios, it means that their digital comics aren't doing as well. Mind you, what could solve this is do what DC Universe has done on their streaming service, which is essentially give access to comics on there, and do that on the Disney app.
Yes, that is probably what they should do with it. I just, as soon as they said, like, as soon as I heard rumors of uproars of them going to cancel Marvel, my instant thought was, no, there's absolutely no way they're canceling Marvel Comics anytime soon.
Potentially they could.
They could, but I don't
If
see it
it's not making a profit, why would you keep that line of stuff going?
because it is making a profit.
No, not as much as it used to.
Not as much, but you're still making money off of it. Like, the thought...
You're not.
I hate...
Okay.
My personal thing is I hate the argument that I'm not making as much money as I used to, so you're useless. You're still making money off of a product. If it costs less, then, like...
Comic books have raised a lot in price, and they're now... Like, you need to go on... Like, as Jason said, you got to order them online. Online's the only way to really do that.
I
in
don't
order to get your comics.
see comics dying out anytime
Oh,
soon.
I don't
and
see
if
comics
they
dying out,
shut
but-
down Marvel Comics, it won't, like... That would be single-handedly the worst decision Disney could have ever made if they shut down Marvel Comics. They will get a boycott for anything Marvel theaters ever, like, movies ever come out, and, like, they will lose a majority of what's making them their money right now. Like, sure, they could write more original stories that people were like, oh, it's not similar to the comics, but, like, the only reason...
I'm not saying you're right. Or I'm not saying you're wrong.
Yeah. I don't...
But I potentially they could, due to the fact that they aren't, like... Let me double check.
I just
thing.
everything goes through a genre change, essentially, like a style change at some point. Like recently, television went from television to internet, basically. Like
Not fully yet. Let's
not
be
fully,
honest.
but it's pretty much there. And at this point, comic books needs to kind of do a similar transition. Just change what they're doing, and they can make a profit again. It's like what I was saying with the DC movies. They're doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting to work still. Times change. You have to adapt a little bit and change how you're distributing or change something about the process. Like,
I mean, yes, I'm not arguing that is, you know, that you're wrong on that, because you're right. You do need to change up the process in order to get it to more people. It's just also financially, if you're in the hole on a set of comics, if you're in the hole on them, right? Like, you're still turning a profit on their movies. Yes. But if the comics themselves are not turning a profit, does it make sense financially to keep them?
As a business, no. But you're still turning a profit. People are saying that
You're turning a profit on the movies, which is different from the comic studio itself.
How do I explain this? Has there been... I mean, I don't have enough information, I guess, at this point. Because when I saw this argument, my thought was, there's no way comics are not selling enough that they're just going to close down Marvel Comics. That's not a thing that's going to happen. Like, at any point in the foreseeable future that I see. Maybe, just maybe, 10 years. If I had to put an estimate, maybe in 10 years I could see Marvel Comics being shut down. But no sooner. I could see it being shut down a lot later. It's just, I don't think, based on what comics are and what they've done for media, like as a creative outlet as a whole, I don't see Marvel Comics going under. And this whole ploy is simultaneously just great marketing. People
it's an idea to raise awareness that you need that if you want to keep comic books alive, you need to buy comics.
Yeah, it's literally like probably that's what all this was is you want comic books, you have to start buying them. And
but because they probably haven't turned a huge a profit. They maybe break even, if not a little bit more, on comics right now. Due to the fact that, like, in all honesty, it's a lot of work to pay a whole bunch of people to make these comics.
Yes, it is.
Which release one a month, depending on which issue they're working on. And they, they have to continue a story arc and all that stuff. There's a long process in the comic stuff that I'm not going to be able to explain well right now. But if it's not turning enough profit and you're going in the hole on them and using the profits from other stuff that you could work on stuff that's going to be more profitable with those funds, why would you keep it around? They're obviously not going to shut it down. I'm not saying they are.
I was about to say, I don't see them shutting down Marvel Comics. I could see them shutting down characters and making new ones, like they've done plenty of times. Like, I could see them retiring Captain America and creating a new superhero eventually who will, at some point, take his place. But I don't see Marvel Comics ever being gone.
My argument to that is you need to have your characters with the longevity. Like, you need your legacy characters. You can't just retire legacy characters.
I mean, sure. The difference with, like, the main reason I don't... Comics, sure, are at risk, but the main reason I don't see them ever going away is just because of what they mean to people. Like...
Well, yeah, they'll still...
maybe
they'll exist.
Like, I mean, like, comics will always exist, yes. Marvel Comics, I think, will always also exist. Because
they've had three close calls. You know this, right?
Yes, I do. They've had three close calls.
Especially in the 90s.
To me, this news of Marvel Comics sounds like we've lost Stan Lee, and we don't know what's gonna happen because Stan Lee was like, even though he's not really the creative driver behind Marvel Comics anymore, like he was a great figurehead for Marvel, and it
he
seems
really
like
had nothing to do with the comics anymore.
No, I know that, but like just him existing. And like people knowing that he was associated with Marvel Comics, and like him doing that his job was like,
I don't see his death affecting the sales of comics. Maybe, if anything, it maybe increased sales of comics, if that makes sense.
Yeah, online. If they just switched to being like an online thing, totally fine.
Yeah, but there are certain people who have been doing comics for collecting comics for a very long time, who want the physicals.
Then they
if that makes sense.
Yeah, I get you, but
because you still they still
at some
still
point
want those.
At some point, that's just collecting paper is going to end altogether. So
I don't want that. I'll be honest, because the idea that everything needs to be online is going to suck. Because if, in all honesty, not having a physical copy of something and like all of it disappears online, hey, everything's gone.
Yeah, that's a real fear. However, and also, real talk is complete side tangent, but also the same talk is like, eventually we're gonna have to stop printing things on paper if we're gonna live. Like, so being able to collect things, like books and comic books, has to end at some point, inevitably, unless we can find another planet with more oxygen that we need. Like, that's just my kind of argument here. But like Marvel Comics, even if they aren't selling physical comics, they will still exist in the digital era.
Yes, but that also means that people need to buy the digital versions.
Which is that you just subscribe to a monthly thing where you can get all of them, which will eventually be an option when they get rid of the physical papers, and you're fine.
Fair, that's if people sign up for them, though. That's what I'm trying to say. They need to turn people into that.
Yeah. It's just...
And there's no guarantee on that.
It's just... Once again, my thought is times are changing. And comics, probably the thing that needs to change is they need to go off paper, and then they will be fine.
But you can't just cut cold turkey.
No, I get you.
Because you're going to piss off the people who collect.
I'm not saying cut off cold turkey. It's just... Start... yeah.
They've been, if you pay attention to their advertising, they have been pushing their online comic service.
Yeah. So
like what you're saying is what they're doing.
Yeah. So the freak out of everyone saying Marvel Comics is dead, I just never understood. Is just what I was.
Well, because the comic industry is at risk. Because not as many people are buying them again.
Now we're going in a circle. Because.
Well, yeah, we're going in a circle, but like, yeah, they're pushing to do that, and they're trying to get people to do it. Doesn't necessarily them trying to do that. Is working, if that makes sense. That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay. Yes.
Like, what you're saying is what they're trying to do, but that doesn't guarantee that it's actually going to happen, which is why it's still at risk right now.
I understand that. I understand that it's at risk, but I personally don't see Marvel Comics going away. Like, at all. And I get the argument.
So, if it happens within the next 5 years...
And if we're still friends by then, because we argue every time we're on a show together, I will tell you you're right. How about that?
Clip it.
I will mark it right now on our thing. Stream markers. Here we go. Important moment. Added to timeline. I will know when I download this later on.
Cool. Also, Will Smith is out of the James Gunn Suicide Squad sequel boot. As we're going to call it, because it's sort of it's going to be a soft reboot that's a sequel.
Yeah.
Which is probably the smart move. It's not they didn't want him to come back and that he didn't want to come back. It's that just scheduling conflicts. He had something else that was going on at the time they were going to be shooting, so conflict in schedule, which is kind of a rough reason for not to have someone who actually made that was one of the better parts of Suicide Squad not there. So
I hate my computer sometimes. You misclick one button, and then you can't close a program. Like, at all.
He's not always out of sequels. It's just depending on the sequel that he's not a part of. Like, Independence Day, he avoided a bomb there with the sequel to that. But he's also a busy actor, so like the fact that he has a scheduling conflict makes sense. Maybe have him have like a small cameo so that we know he still exists, because I doubt they're going to recast him. They just might switch out which character is in that spot on the team, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Someone suggested Deathstroke, Joe DiMaggio's character from Justice League.
Maybe.
He. It's not like he's doing anything right now.
True. You're not wrong. Okay. What was I gonna? You brought up James Gunn at some point, and
Chasing it, but it's James Gunn's Suicide Squad.
Yeah, which made me think. I've heard a lot of like. There's been back and forths I've heard about James Gunn and being on Guardians 3. Like, I know they're using his Guardians 3 script. I know he's
not going to be in.
Yeah. But recently, I've been seeing articles from major like movie publishers saying James Gunn might be in Guardians 3. It's rumors, but I highly doubt it.
My big thing, if he does come back, it's going to push Guardians Volume 3 further down the Phase 4 timeline.
Mm-hmm. It's already scheduled for like 2021, isn't it?
We don't know their schedule. They haven't told us anything past Far From Home.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And they don't plan on telling us anything past Far From Home until Far From Home comes out.
That's a good thing.
And they'll tell us after that point. Because they don't have anything slated for this year after that.
Interesting. I'm interested to see what they do with that then. Because if next year, like 2020, is a year without any Marvel movies, I don't see it happening because they haven't announced what's happening to us. Like, they haven't announced what's happening. They haven't slated anything. But, like, I'm just imagining, what if they just take a year off to work on new properties to make a really great debut in 2021 for Phase 4? It's not how it's going to work.
Phase 4 starts it at Far From Home.
I know. It's not how it's going to work, but it'd be interesting.
I'll be honest, I wouldn't like that.
I know. No one would like that except for me. No one, because everything has to come out exactly as it's supposed to for the past. Every Marvel movie has to have one. There has to be one Marvel movie every year. That's what I was trying to say.
Yes.
That's,
because you could have...
Just like there has to be one DC animated movie every year. Just like there has to be one Pokemon movie every year.
Okay, but arguing that... Okay, there isn't one Pokemon film every year.
I didn't mean film. I meant game. My apologies.
There isn't one Pokemon game every year. You fucking schmuck.
Okay, Call of Duty then. How about that?
Okay, fine.
There we go.
But the reason why they have teams set up to do these films over time.
No,
you know
I know that.
Right?
Yes. Yes. I know how films are made ahead of time.
I'm just making sure because you're saying that the quality of the Marvel films isn't as good because they push one out every year, when in reality they have like 4 different teams working on these.
Yes, they do.
That makes it work. Name a fucking bomb in the fucking Marvel universe, huh?
Thor 2.
That's not even a bomb.
Considerably, it's a bomb compared to the others. However, you're not wrong.
Like rating-wise, hold on. Rotten Tomatoes. Thor Dark World. It's still fresh at a 66%. It's not fresh, but it's still ripe. If that makes sense.
Still ripe at a 66%.
And a 76 audience score. If that's the lowest they have.
Captain America: First Avenger is rated at a 6.9 on IMDb. Which is lower than Thor 2 at a 7 on IMDb.
I tend to go off of Rotten Tomatoes because their scores are a little bit more accurate, in my opinion. Because on here, same audience score, but 80% on Captain America: First movie.
Rotten Tomatoes. Speaking of which, news on them. Rotten Tomatoes is just more general public. It's like Yelp for movie reviews.
But they take more critic reviews together to do it.
I get you.
If that makes sense.
No. Yeah, I get you. And speaking of Rotten Tomatoes, have you heard about how they're changing the rating system? Yeah. And they're getting rid of the... they're changing so you can't rate a movie before it's released to theaters. And they're changing so you can't change they're removing the want-to-watch meter kind of thing.
because trolls are, and it's an understandable thing. Like,
they originally said that they thought trolling wasn't a thing on their website, and then they determined, you know what, trolling is a thing on our website. We're gonna change that. So
and it makes sense given that Captain Marvel was getting bombed before it was even out by audience reviews, and its want to see meter was at 34%, which I feel like if you go off the general public of people who watch Marvel films, they're all going to be like, yeah, I want to see Captain Marvel.
Yeah, at this point, I haven't met any. Like, I mean, I do know people who don't watch every Marvel film, so I do know people who are like, I'm not gonna watch this movie, but anyone who's seen every Marvel film, no one is gonna be like, I'm not gonna watch Captain Marvel.
It's just the score at a 34% just was dumb as shit, and I was like, okay, yeah, these are obviously fucking trolls doing their trolly thing.
Incoming troll, are you prepared, Dev? But Black Widow was the first ever female superhero in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Why isn't she the first female superhero feminine lead? Or but a woman can't be the main driver behind a movie and an action film. That's not possible. Okay, troll off. All right, which one of you think did the most views? Like, which one? I'm just kidding. Well, I was trying
to them deserve to get punched in the face.
Yeah, like, I agree with you. But that actually did bring up a thought that whole Black Widow thing. How did you feel about that? Do you think Black Widow deserved to be more prevalent as a female?
Well, I mean, I've said that about her. Well, I'm more of a I feel like all of them should have their own films personally, because they all have good story arcs that they could have. Black Widow is apparently lined up to get her own film, which might be rated R, which will be good for her.
Not
and
rated
Hawkeye's,
R, actually.
Well, it'll still be good. And Hawkeye's slated for a TV series on the Disney Plus streaming service. So potentially lined up for that. So, I mean, the characters I want more stories from that don't have as many stories are going to get their stories. So I don't see a problem with this. And Captain Marvel's just a badass. So, like, in my opinion, I've been waiting for her to show up way earlier than she has.
Okay.
Like, I expected her in Phase 2. And she was supposed to show up in Age of Ultron.
Yeah, they did reference that recently, that they said they were going to introduce her earlier, but then cut her.
She was supposed to show up in the end scene when Captain America goes, Avengers! And it cuts to black, because he never gets to finish assemble during it. But
when you get to see the 4 people walk up, or the 3, or however many it was at the time, I forget. 4.
But in my opinion, the people freaking out being like, oh, Black Widow should have got one first. I mean, Captain Marvel needed one years ago at this point, so.
Oh, what was that company? Crap. Oh, that's right. Did you hear? I heard rumors recently that after Disney claims, like, gets the Fox Studio deal, I hear that they're going to keep the Fox Studio title. Like, they're going to keep calling it Fox, like, Searchlight Movies.
That's fine. Yeah. I expected them to do that. I honestly expected them to have that studio to do those kind of films still.
Yeah, the reason behind that is because Disney is looking into making more mature themed movies, and having a Disney logo followed by bloody, gory violence on any movie is not a good image for Disney. So
no, which is why I said this when we talked about this last year.
Yeah.
Is they're going to keep Fox Searchlight as a thing to have movies come out through that. It's like, and it'll work. Like, in all honesty, I wouldn't doubt seeing like the Pirates series come through there.
Oh yeah, stuff Pirates like becoming more gruesome.
They want to do a new set of movies where it's not about Jack Sparrow.
Yeah. Speaking of which, we're talking about pirates, and side tangent. I have you right in front of me. Please download World Warship so we could like roleplay pirates. It's fun.
You can't roleplay pirates in that.
You can roleplay many things.
I've tried to play those games before.
I've had such a good time with that game. All right, back to movies.
I got no other news. Covered mine.
Is there any other news that I had? Let me see if I can pull it up real fast. I'm going to make us look weird real fast. Sorry, I apologize. I'm double checking if I posted anything in here. Nope. All right, that's all the news I've got for today. I've got nothing
Oh,
else.
well then, I guess we should be ready for next week. Right?
You're not gonna do any voices? You're just gonna wobble them?
They're shaking their head. Yes,
All right.
Steven. We're going to be covering Captain Marvel next week. I can't wait.
Yeah. Captain Marvel next week. It's good. It's not a Black
I'm
Widow
going to fucking
movie.
slap you.
Yeah, we're watching Elektra and Captain Marvel next week. I can't wait to see how the cat steals the show.
The cat?
Who's the cat? In Captain Marvel.
Oh. Okay, fair enough. I thought you said Elektra and then you said the cat to steal the
Sorry.
show. I'm like,
I know.
Elektra's not Catwoman.
No, I know. My mind went places. I wasn't. It. In my mind, it made sense to me, but I know it doesn't make sense to others. I'm sorry. All right. Yeah. Captain Marvel, Elektra. That's next week. Watch us next Sunday for next Critically Casual. Show up on Wednesdays. Oh, I'm done. I'm going to bed. Dev, have fun.
Tune in on Wednesdays for Third Player Optional, our gaming podcast, and Thursdays for Har Podcast. Both of these are on 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So check both of them out. So, yeah, and then turn back here on Sundays for 1 p.m. for the Critically Casual.
Oh, did we announce that our 1 year had passed? Our 1 year anniversary?
We already covered that like 2 weeks ago.
I know. We said it was coming up, and then we never talked about it the week it happened. And then
we talked about it the next set of movies.
Did we? I remember us talking about it on Har. I don't remember us.
Yeah, we talked about it on here as well, I believe.
Oh, okay.
So.
Yeah. Happy 1 year, everybody. Once again, anyways.
Yeah.
Whatever. Bye, guys. Thanks for showing up. Have a great rest of your day.